Hello and welcome to a new tutorial. This is Everything April YouTube channel. Thank you for stopping by again. If this is your first time checking out my videos, you're welcome. Please subscribe if you're yet to subscribe, and also turn on the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. And please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. So today's tutorial is the first part of a two-part series tutorial. So today's tutorial is on how to cut a female senator top. So the next video will be on how to sew a female senator top. So let us get into today's tutorial. First thing I did was to fold the front part of this top into two. I folded using my biggest body circumference, which is the hip. So I folded using quarter of the hip plus extra 3 inches, which I would explain what that is as we go on. And I also folded according to the length of the top I want. The length of the top is 35 inches and I added 1.5 inches hemming allowance to it. So what I will do now will be to cut out the length for the back. So the back will be 3 inches longer than what I have for the front, but the width will be the same thing. Okay, as you can see, I've cut out the back. Like I said, the back is 3 inches longer than what I have for the front piece, but the width for the back and that for the front is the same, and they are both folded in two. That is having folded in 4. The front is folded into 2 and the back is folded into 2 as well. So the next thing I will do now will be to get my shoulder slope. So I'm imputing half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8.5 plus half inch joining allowance, and from that point I came down by 1.5 inches for my shoulder slope. So for this shoulder slope, take note that this is for an average female. So if you are a very large person with a very broad shoulder, you can do the shoulder slope. You can come down by up to 2 inches. So I'm connecting my shoulder slope to the tip, the center fold where I have folded, and the front and the back at the top are equal at this point. So I'll go ahead and cut out the slope. I'll cut out for the shoulder slope. The front and the back are equal at the top at this point, and I'm cutting for both the front and the back. Now that the shoulder slope has been cut out, I am going to pull down the front piece, the front part, so that the end part of the front and the back will be equal. Then the extra I added to the back piece is now in front. Like you can see, I've made them equal at the lower end. The lower end, the front and the back are equal. Now the extra 3 inches I added is now pushed towards the top, as you can see. Okay, so what I will do now will be to fold this extra 3 inches towards the front part so that it will overlap the front part by at least quarter to half inch. That's what I will do. I'm going to iron it so that it laps very well. So I'll do that and show you. So I've ironed this part, the extra 3 inches, to overlap the front part by at least quarter of an inch. That is what I have done, and from there now I would start taking all my measurements. The measurements now, I will start taking my measurement from the folded end, the folded part that came towards the front. That's where would be the start line. That would be the new shoulder line. So I'm going to take half of my shoulder measurement plus 1 half inch joining, which is 9 inches. That is my shoulder, for the shoulder, and from there I came down by 9 inches, which is half of my round armhole. So I'm ruling it out. Okay, then from the start line, from this folded end, I'm going to take 17 inches, which is half length, my waistline. So from the top to 17 inches, I would note my half length, the waistline, and from the top to 25 inches is the hip line I'm working with. So I would also note that. So I will turn this into straight lines. I will rule them. I will make them straight lines so that it will be visible before I start taking and shaping the top. So now on the chest line, on the chest line, I'm going to impute quarter of my bust measurement plus 1 inch for ease, and also another 1 inch for sewing allowance. So the measurement I have on the chest line, I'm going to bring that down to my waistline. So the measurement I have on the chest line, I brought it down to the waistline. Then on the hip line, I will impute quarter of my hip measurement plus 1 inch for ease, which is 12 inches, plus extra 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead and connect these points from the chest line to the waistline and down to the hip line. Okay, remember that I said that the measurement I have on the chest line is what I brought down to the waistline. But if you want, you can impute quarter of your waist measurement plus 1 inch for ease. So on the hemline, I'm going to impute exactly what I have on the hip line. The measurement I have on the hip line, which is quarter of my hip measurement plus 1 inch for ease and 1 inch for joining allowance. And I'm connecting as you see me do. So for the armhole, I will draw out my armhole curve. So I would measure what I have from the shoulder slope to the chest line. That line, I'll divide that into 2, and from there I would curve for my back armhole. While for the front armhole, I will come in by half an inch at that center point, and then I'll use my curve ruler to connect down to the chest line and then up to the shoulder point. So that is what I'll do. Then at the waistline, remember that the measurement on the waist and the bust is the same, so I want it to have a little bit of shape. So from the measurement on the waistline, I'm coming in by half an inch just to give it a little bit of shape. So I'll connect this half an inch back to the chest line and then down to the hip line. As I'm demonstrating, that's what I did. I came in by half an inch at the waist because initially what I had on the waist and the bust was the same thing, so I sharpened it by with half inch. Then for the neckline, this is a senator top, so I wouldn't want the neck to be too wide, so I'm taking a neck width of 2.5 inches 2.5 inches for my neck width, and I'm taking a neck depth of 4 inches. Okay, I wouldn't be piping the neckline, so if I was to pipe the neckline for this top, I would take probably 3.5 inches since I'm making this for an average sized person. So but for this, I'm taking 4 inches for my neck depth. Okay, you can see how I measured 4 inches, and then for the width I have 2.5 inches. So I would draw this out in form of a rectangle. I'll make this into a rectangle I'm connecting. Okay, so I've made it into a rectangle. So what I'm going to do now will be to curve the neckline. So from that 90 degrees point, I'm coming up by 1 inch, and then I'm curving towards the center front as you see me do. Okay, 1 inch, and then I made a curve, and then from this folded end, from this end, I'm going to measure out half an inch, and from there I'm going to continue this curve as you see me demonstrate. I'm curving towards the center as well, the center part as well. So I'll go ahead and cut out the neckline. So before cutting out, I'll also recheck all my measurements, and then for the slit, I would measure the length I want for the slit. So from the chest line, I'm going to measure down 16 inches. So that is where I want my slit to start. You can decide to start the slit from the hip line or 1 or 2 inches below the hip line, whatever you want. But I measured from the chest, so I measured 16 inches down from the chest line for the slit. So I'll go ahead and cut as you see me do. I'm cutting the back armhole first, and when cutting, I'm going to cut this half inch I came in by. You can see how I'm showing you where I'll cut from, not the initial line I have. So I would cut out and cut down, and that extra 1 inch that I have remaining, I'm going to leave that for my slit. So you would see how I'm going to cut out. So from down up, you can see my slits. The length of my slit is about 10 inches. So like I said, I measured from the chest line 16 inches down. From the chest line down is 16 inches. So my slit is about 10 inches of length. So I'll cut out, and this extra I have would be for forming the slits. Okay, so I'll then go ahead and cut out the front armhole. I would lift the front, so I'm cutting only the front part for the front armhole. You can see how I cut that out, not joined together with the back, just the front armhole. That is what I'm cutting. So after doing that, I will then go ahead and cut the neckline. So please pay attention for this neckline. You're not cutting them joined together. Please note that I lifted up and I started cutting only the front part, and then I cut and join. You can see how I cut and join the part that will folded. So as you can see, I did not cut the front and the back joined together. Okay, so I lifted up the front part and cut the where I drew out the circle for the neckline. So I'm just going to open that up to enable me complete the cutting, the curve I have. So that is what I'm going to do. That is what I'm doing. Okay, so please don't make the mistake of cutting the neckline together. Just lift up and cut only the front part and cut just the way we drew out the neckline. So that's how you get your neckline. So for the front part, I'm going to have a slit in front. So what I'll do now will be to measure um the length of the slit I want. So from where the neck depth stop, I'm going to measure the front neck depth stop. I'm going to measure 5 inches. That is the length of the slit I want. So I'm going to measure 5 inches, and from the neck depth, the front neck depth, I'm going to come in by half an inch. So from that half an inch, I'm going to connect to the 5 inches length I measured, and that will be that for the slit in front. So I would quickly cut out the sleeves for this top. So I have my afforded two fabrics, and the length of my slit is 15 inches plus hemming allowance. And then I also folded based on the width of my sleeve, width of the arm opening, half of my armhole opening. So I'm taking a cap's height of 4 inches, and I'm just making out, curving out my sleeve. And for the sleeve opening, I'm using 7 inches plus extra 1 inch, making it 8 inches for sewing allowance. Now I'm doing this fast because I have on my channel how you can make your basic long sleeve and your basic short sleeve, and I would drop the link in the description box on how you can make your short sleeve or your long sleeve, or even your 3/4 length sleeve. So I'll go ahead and cut out for my sleeves. So I'm cutting the two sleeves together. So I have two fabrics folded for the two sleeves. So I'll go ahead and cut out the sleeves. So I've cut out the sleeves. So the next thing I will do now will be to cut out the front and the back yoke. So I folded my fabric into two for the front yoke, and the length for this yoke should be at least 2 inches more than where the slit for the front will stop. So all I would basically do now would be to trace out the neckline on this yoke. The fabric is folded into two. So I'll trace out the neckline, the shoulder slope, and the armhole. That is what I will do. And I'll also repeat the same thing for the back yoke. So I'm just tracing out exactly so that the neckline and the shoulder slope and the armhole for the yoke and the main fabric will be the same. So for the length for the front, I said that the yoke should be at the center part, should be at least 2 inches more than where the slit will stop. Okay, so that is what I'm measuring. I'm making sure that I have 7 inches since my slit is stopping at 5 inches, so I have 7 inches. So I would connect and cut out the remaining part that I do not need for the yoke. So I'll also go ahead and trace out the same thing I did. I would fold a fabric for the back and trace out the neckline, the shoulder slope, and the armhole. So this is it on how you can cut a female senator top. So thank you for watching. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you're yet to subscribe. Also touch the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. In the second part of this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to sew a female senator top. So don't forget to click on the notification bell so that you'll be notified when I upload the video on how I sewed this top that I've just cut in this video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next tutorial. Bye.